the 1980s, in different parts of England, strange house fires began to happen. Homes were completely destroyed. Furniture, curtains, walls, everything turned to ash. But in almost every one of these houses, one thing remained intact: a painting, the portrait of a crying boy. And the question is not whether this painting was cursed or not. The real question is, how did a cheap printed image turn into one of the most disturbing legends of the 20th century? The Crying Boy. The paintings known today as the Crying Boy paintings were not a single artwork. They were a series of very similar portraits, little boys with tear-filled eyes, trembling lips, and a gaze fixed directly on the viewer. In the 1960s and 70s, these images were sold as cheap prints in millions of working-class homes across Britain. Not fine art, not collectibles, just inexpensive wall decoration. Until the fires began. The Rotherham Case. Winter 1985. The small town of Rotherham in northern England, an ordinary two-story house, an ordinary family, no signs of danger. The fire started in the middle of the night. The family managed to escape in time. By morning, when they were allowed back inside, almost nothing remained, except a single frame in the middle of the living room. A painting of a little boy, crying. Not burned, not cracked, not even covered in soot. One firefighter later said, "It looked like someone had placed it there on purpose, right in the center." The word cursed wasn't whispered yet, but the silence was deafening, and that pause was enough to start a story. The Wave of Fires. In the early 1980s, several firefighters in northern England began to notice a strange pattern. Houses that caught fire often shared one common detail: the Crying Boy painting. In some reports, the painting had been hanging above the fireplace, yet after the fire, it was found on the floor, completely intact. These stories spread by word of mouth. Then the media got involved. In several cases, firefighters mentioned details that never appeared in official reports, but were repeated in informal interviews. Not only had the paintings survived, they were often found facing outward, not toward the wall, not upside down, as if they were the last thing looking out of the room. In one case, the wooden frame was completely blackened, but the boy's face remained almost untouched. In another, the painting lay in the exact center of the room, even though the ceiling above it had collapsed. None of this is strange by itself, but when several independent people in different cities describe the same thing, the human mind starts looking for a common cause. And in this story, that cause was always the same image. The media. In 1985, the notorious tabloid The Sun ran a headline, "The Cursed Painting That Burns Houses." People were urged to get rid of the painting immediately. What happened next? Hundreds of people sent in their paintings. Some burned them, some buried them, some threw them out in fear. But the media left one thing out. There was no official data linking the fires to the painting. Bruno Amadio. The paintings are attributed to an Italian artist named Bruno Amadio, also known as Giovanni Bragolin. He painted dozens of portraits of crying children. But there is no reliable evidence that his models died, or that the artist himself had a tragic story. Stories like, "The children later burned to death," or "The painter died in a fire," have no historical basis. They were created later. The solved mystery. So why did the paintings survive? The answer isn't supernatural, it's chemistry. These prints were often mounted on boards treated with fire-resistant coatings or special varnishes. When a house burned, the hanging wire melted, the painting fell, and because it was no longer vertical, it burned less. But the human brain likes patterns. When it sees several similar events, it creates a story. Why are we still afraid? Because the image of a crying child directly triggers feelings of guilt, fear, and protection in the human brain. And when that image is combined with fire, home, and family, a complete legend is born. Not because of demons, not because of curses, because of us. The Crying Boy paintings did not burn houses, but they showed how a simple image, with the help of media, collective fear, and a few coincidences, can turn into a national nightmare. And perhaps the real question is,
how many of the fears we live with today
are truly dangerous? And how many are simply well-told stories?